Hi, today I'm going to talk about introduction about engineering technologies. So engineering technologies is a professional trade in certain aspect of development and implementation of respective area of technology. So engineering technology is more applied and less theoretical than engineering technology will often assist professional engineer, but after years in experience, they can lead the engineers themselves. To understand the difference between engineering and technology, one needs to understand their meaning, which is engineering is a field of study, while technology is application based upon science and technology. So engineering is a both of study as well as application of knowledge to create or produce something such as product or something structural that we can see and we can use in our life. Meanwhile, the technology is an application of knowledge to gain through science and engineering of fields to make and also to produce something structural.
So for the job aspect, first and foremost, I will explain about the role of engineering technologists, where their responsibilities require technical and practical knowledge, which means they apply the abilities in using technical equipment, serving as manufacturer technical, supervising construction projects and manufacturing processes. For the job aspect, the spectrum are product design, manufacturing, production, service and operation. So the difference between the engineering technologies and engineering is engineering technologies is more application, whereas the engineering is more to theoretical. So for the job spectrum for engineering technologies are product design, manufacturing, production, operation and services. For the engineering, it includes the test and evaluation, development, complex design, complex analysis and research. So I will explain about product design in the engineering technologies, where product design is how design is made and what it intended to do and how for it complies with equipment. So for the manufacturing, the meaning of manufacturing is the stage of production, where all the characteristics include in that, where the size, the shape, and others. So for the production, it means we understand the dynamic of product, where we can make the best quality of the product. So for the operation and service, it depends on the job itself. For example, civil technologies, where we understand the operation for the job we take, and the services that we can that we apply in the job. So it is for the operation and service, where we understand the operation and its services. The last one about the scale of engineering technologies. The first one is competence in communication, industrial relation people, cost and resource management. And the second one is a well-developed philosophies of engineering, and the last one is sufficiently aware of the broad social context skill of engineering technologies.
Hi guys, first of all, I'm gonna highlight you guys about some of the general issues that are encountered by technologists. So there are basically three general issues, which are: the first is factual, the second one is conceptual, and lastly is the moral issue. So the solution for the first issue is to do some research in order to establish the truth. And for the second one, the conceptual issues, is to agree on the meaning of terms and concepts. Lastly, for the moral issue, it is resolved by agreement, moral principles pertinence, and how they should be applied.
For the first aspect is design aspect. So the problem occurred in this situation is the prototype is too tight for adjustment during manufacturing and usage. The problem might be occurred due to the changes in design that are not carefully checked. So for the second aspect, it is scheduling of tasks. So the problem arises here is insufficient allowance for unexpected events, and this situation will lead to false promises of unrealistic completion date. Moving on with purchasing part. For this scenario, the company does not write the specification only to favor one vendor. So these problems will that indirectly leads to bribes, maybe due to the personal interest of the company itself or other interests. So for the fourth part, which is quality control, the problem arises here is that during inspection, the testing procedure does not independent and also against the manufacturing standards. So this problem might be occurred due to the testing procedure being rushed out and falsify the result for the sake of company itself. For the fifth part, which is sale. So some of the company tends to make false advertising just to maximize their profit. Therefore, the products are oversold beyond client's need. So next is shipping. Some of the products are too large to ship by line. So during transportation to the cargo, accident is bound to happen one way or another, and this will result to the loss of profit of the company. For the second last part, which is maintenance and repair. Some of the company has inadequate supply of spare parts, leading to hesitation to recall the product when the product is found to be faulty. Lastly is safety measures, which is the most important part of technologies. So the problem that we have here is that the manufactured product does not meet the standard of accepted industry practice. So any misuse of the product or the devices will lead to an unwanted consequences, not also to the users, but also to the environment.
For this part, I will be explaining what engineering technology's contribution towards society. Okay, let's see. First, nowadays we can see that technology has played an important role in our society. There are many key figures that play a crucial role in the technology. One of them is Douglas Engelbart, who is most celebrated for creating and innovating for the mouse for the computer. Nowadays we can see that we use this kind of mouse, but before this become a commonly known on our society, the first mouse was actually made of wood, like this. However, mouse was not the only thing that he helped inventing and innovating. He also invented hyperlink and text editing for one presentation. This was considered nowadays as a modern technology that we use. Next, we can see in our society that everybody using a smartphone wherever we go, in a train, in a bus, or even in the class. Now, we're permitted to using for education purpose. But before that, before we can make the cell phone mobile, we had the only option to make a call using a phone embedded to the wall, such as the public phone and a telephone that using at home. Martin Cooper was the first inventor that created mobile phone, and this was his innovation from the public phone and the off phone. The first phone was created was Motorola Dynatax 8000, and it weighed 2 pounds with a grey color.
At last, we have reached the end point. To sum up of all our discussion and hours of research, I will point and highlight the main point of this video. But all the data presented in this video are solely based on our respective view, supported with analysis and research. So others may have different opinions. As were mentioned before, people often mistaken and cannot distinguish between engineering technologists and engineer. In this video, we create a clear boundary and make a perfect and solid understanding of what technologist is. For the job aspects, the spectrum are product design, manufacturing, production, and the last one is operation and service. These items create different core or characteristic for a technologist. From this point, we can observe that the true aspect and the jobs of technologists in a demanded market. For the potential issues, it can be separated into 3 different things, which are factual, conceptual, and morals. To simplify things, in terms of job scope, we have to fulfill the manufacturing standard, and we have to inspect the item in a very detailed way, and also the sales are not for the sake of the company, but we have also to focus on the sake of users and environment. And for the most important thing is the safety requirement need to be prioritized, and this will prevent harmful effect to the users and the surrounding. As for the contribution of technologists to society, we pick 2 technologists, which are Daniel Engelbart and Martin Cooper. Both technologists, Douglas Engelbart and Martin Cooper, are responsible for the invention of mouse and first telephone respectively. Their invention is what desired the most, other than their marketing skills, makes their invention compatible in the market. The invention of the first cell phone as innovation from the electric telegraph is widely used in our daily life, and undoubtedly one of the most vital device in our era. It opens the accessibility of communication wider for the society. It is same goes to the mouse, as it was innovated from the keyboard. In earlier days, for the first computer, the computer have
a keyboard that has specific buttons that allow specific commands to be executed. And surprisingly, it was widely used until mouse came to the rescue.